You hear me through this now? There we go. Thank you, Kimber, and thank you all so much for being here and participating in the story that's about to happen. As Kimber mentioned, I'm a storyteller from Appalachia. I'm a professional storyteller, and I've created a piece to share with you to start the day that maybe will give you a snapshot, a little picture of what it's like to live in Appalachia and to be in Appalachia and face the daily health challenges that together put up what I think is one of the biggest struggles for people, and that is everyday survival. And just as a question, if I'm here and here, can you see me okay? Okay. Jenny was in her car driving across the county. She was mad, and you could tell by the way that her knuckles looked. It took 30 minutes to get to the Shop and Save where she was heading, and she didn't have time for that. She was mad and thinking about her sister, thinking about her sister's baby, that fat little baby, thinking about her daughter, and thinking about how this would probably make her late for work, and wondering if that would dock her pay, which she couldn't afford. Just a few minutes before this, she had been at home in her double wide. Her back leaned up against that place in the kitchen where the two counters came together, one arm across right here. She had a Misty Slim in her fingers, and she'd been smoking it slowly, helping her daughter with her spelling words. It was late in the afternoon, and the sun was just coming right through the blinds, illuminating those wisps of smoke as they twirled around like marbleized paper designs in gray. Spell it again, baby. K-L-E-N-S, cleans. She took another drag and breathed it out and said, "What else makes the K sound, baby?" I don't know. It's the C. C makes the K sound. "But, Mama, I thought the C made the S sound." "It makes both," she said. She tamped out that cigarette, dug around in her pocketbook until she came up with one of those packs of nicotine gum, popped out a piece, and popped it in her mouth. As she chewed down on it, she turned around to begin making dinner for herself to take to work that night. Spell it again, baby. C-L-E-N-C? Cleans? She didn't turn around. She just kept making that dinner. She said, "No, honey, it's C-L-E-A-N-S. You got to study these. Now spell washes. W-A-S. Hands up, little girl. W-A-S-H. Still without turning around, she said, "Go get your inhaler, baby." She said, "Mom, it's not my inhaler I need." She said, "It's the smoke." She said, "It ain't the smoke." She stopped fixing dinner. She turned around and she said, "It's the coal dust. We got coal dust on everything here in Logan County. Our dust has coal dust. Now go down and get your inhaler." Her daughter Maddie stood up and she made her way down the hallway. Jenny kept hollering at her as she made that dinner. "I got you a Stouffer's in the freezer, baby. Make sure you peel the plastic off when you fix your dinner tonight. And don't leave a fork in the microwave this time." Maddie had returned, and she was back to spelling. "And if you need anything while I'm gone, number for Aunt Gina's right there on the refrigerator with all the emergency contact info. How long will you be gone tonight, Mama?" "Same as every other night, till 2 a.m. 2 a.m. Now spell washes. W-A-S. And then they were both startled as this sound. They startled a bit and looked over as the screen door had slammed in the wooden jamb on the exterior of their double-wide trailer. And there stood Jenny's sister, Gina. She was tall, frail. She had a choppy, short haircut and a big, fat baby on her hip. "Well, Lord, Gina, what are you doing here?" She said, "If you'd called, I would have had something ready for you." She sat there with that baby bouncing on her hip, and she said, "Hey, sis, I need you to go over to the shop and save and get us some baby food. Well, Gina, I can't do that. She said, I'm helping Maddie with her spelling words. I got to go to work soon. Why don't you just go over there? I can't. She looked at her sister and said, did you lose your license again? There was no response except a stare. Well, why don't you walk over to the Dollar General and get some baby food there? They sell it there. Because, sis, they don't take the WIC checks there no more. Will you just go to the shop and save for us? She looked at her and said, well, I don't have time to do this. What am I supposed to do here? How can I help you right now? Silence, and then she just said, would you do this for us, please? And she held up her WIC check in her other hand. Jenny said, well, I guess I have to. I can't have my nephew starving under my watch. Here, give me that. She grabbed that WIC check. She turned to her daughter and said, remember, that Stouffer's is in the freezer. It's not the mac and cheese because that ain't no meal. It's lasagna. Peel the plastic off of it. And don't drink out of the spigot right now. Something's wrong with it again. They're drilling up at the mine. There's a few bottles of water under the sink. And stay here and help your niece with those spelling words. If I got to do this for you, you got to do something for me. She grabbed her pocketbook and her keys, got into the car, and it turned over, and she backed out real fast. And as soon as she was gone, Maddie looked up at her aunt and said, can we get Domino's? So that's where Jenny was, driving her car. It took 25 to 30 minutes to get to the shop and save on this day. She was mad, and by the time she got there, she'd smoked through 2 more of those Misty Slims. She parked the car, she grabbed a buggy, pushed it through those open doors that opened and closed all on their own. She pushed it past a pretty wimpy produce section, none of it coming from right around there in Logan County. She went past all the aisles, looking at each one, until she came to aisle 5. Ketchup, mayonnaise, condiments, baby food. She turned down into it and looked halfway down. She saw Arden Pritchard. Oh, Lordy, she thought to herself. Jenny and Arden had grown up together, and Arden was always the most beautiful girl in the whole county. She was always doted on for that. She'd been the queen of every pageant. When they were seniors in high school, in fact, Arden had been the queen of both homecoming and prom. But now, at age 31, she seemed much more comfortable in the condiments aisle than in ball gowns. Jenny saw her leaning up against her buggy, bracing her massive weight against that handle right there, her hands draped over 2 liters of diet soda and Oreos. In one hand she had a jar of Hellman's mayonnaise, and one hand she had a jar of Duke's mayonnaise. And Jenny thought maybe she could sidle right past her without getting noticed. See, Arden was what you'd call an all-day talker. You know people like that? And so she was just pushing right past when Arden began to turn around and engage the conversation of anyone else who was in the aisle, as people in Appalachia are prone to do. Excuse me there, honey. Have you tried this here Duke's mayonnaise? We've always been a Hellman's family, but ever since they brought it here to Logan County, I've been wanting to try it, and I just don't have a recommendation for it. And I was thinking that, well, Jenny, how are you doing there, honey? Jenny thought, trapped, like a coon in a trash can in a flood-lit driveway. Hey, Arden. Well, it's so good to see you. You haven't been down at the church for quite some time. Oh, we got so many good things going on down there that I'd love to tell you about. We got a missions program for all these little poor children in Africa. They don't hardly got no good food to eat, and their water ain't worth drinking. Oh, makes you wonder why anybody would want to leave West Virginia. Listen. Jenny thought about it. She didn't have a chance here in this conversation because the litany of questions was about to unroll, questions that didn't beg any answers, and she just let her go. How are you and Maddie doing up there? Is it just still the 2 of you, or did Erskine come back home yet? No, I guess he didn't, but I reckon y'all will make it just fine. And I heard that your sister had a little baby. Oh, what good news. I wasn't going to bring it up because I wasn't quite sure if you knew who the father was. But I wasn't going to say anything about that either because I wasn't sure if she knew who the father was. But I wasn't going to bring up any of that at all, actually, because that's gossip, and gossip is a sin. And I don't want to bring that on the head of that poor little fatherless baby. How is that little bundle of joy anyway? He's good, Arden. His name's Harrison. I got to get him some baby food, so I can't really stay and talk. And then their conversation was interrupted by, They both startled and looked, and there, right next to him in the aisle, was a morbidly obese man in his 20s, honking that little buzzer on his motorized scooter. He was holding up his walking stick, pointing at some other condiment he needed to get at. Jenny thought, an out. So she pushed on away as Arden leached onto this man, asking him questions about the Duke's mayonnaise. Jenny got her baby food. She made her way to the aisle, to the checkout aisle, put the jars there on the conveyor belt, placed the WIC check on top of it, watched as they rolled down to the checkout clerk. He was a handsome young man, broad for his age, maybe a senior in high school. Anything else I can get for you? Carton of Misty Slims. As he turned around, she quickly put more lip gloss on and primped herself up just a little bit. She was doing the math in her head, subtracting his age from hers. And the subtraction made her think of her daughter. Which made her think of spelling, asthma, coal dust, rent to pay. She thought about all those things as she made her way back home. When she got to the trailer, it was quiet. She set the jars of baby food on the counter, grabbed her purse and her dinner, made her way back into the car, and set to drive to work for that night. As she was driving to the next county over, she got stuck behind a coal truck, which she knew would make her late for sure, as if she already wasn't going to be. So she began chain smoking those Misty Slims again. When she got there, she'd already cursed that truck out and everybody else on the 2-lane. But as she got out there, she took one long last drag of that cigarette. She got out of her car and aired out her scrubs a little bit, ran across that big parking lot and into the ER. She made her way down behind receiving, sat down there. She sat into that wheelie chair. She was calling out, sorry I'm late. I got stuck behind a coal truck. And one of the other nurses there said, don't worry about it. Nobody's here. She looked out into the waiting room, and no one was there in the ER. And she spent the next 8 hours doing her nursing duties, most of which there consisted of filling out paperwork and filing it. Every now and then someone would come in for a minor issue. And like every night, there was one major issue. This night, a family had come in following their son who had been out four-wheeling after dark, and it turned over on him. And as soon as they took him back, Jenny could see that mother pacing back and forth until she couldn't take it any longer, and she ran up and slammed her hands down on that piece of wood between patient and nurse at the receiving area. She said, I got to know if he's going to be all right. Is my boy going to be all right? Please, I got to know. Is he going to be all right? Tell me that he'll be all right. She looked up at those eyes that were the same as every person's eyes that came in there every night. He's going to be all right. We got a good doctor on duty, lots of experience. He's going to be all right. And as the tears came out of that mother's eyes, Jenny reached forward and touched her shoulder. You're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. We always make it through, no matter what comes up. And those words stuck with her throughout the rest of the night as she made that long, slow drive after 2 a.m. back home. When she got home to her trailer, she quietly went inside. She could see down the hall that the door to her daughter's room was cracked open. It was dark, and she could hear a little bit of faint snoring coming out. She looked over on the couch, and there was her sister Gina curled up in a ball, spelling book on the pillow next to her. And in the playpen there on the floor was the baby, sound asleep. She reached over and nudged her sister like this. Hey, sis. Hey, thanks for taking care of Maddie. You want to ride home? No. She picked up that big baby, put it on her hip, and as she went out, she said, are you sure? No, it's a clear night. I'll walk home. We'll be all right. We always are. Jenny closed and locked the door, sat down on that couch that still wasn't fully paid for, thought about how she had made it through the day. Everyone in her life, her family, her patients, they had all made it. And her reward at the end of this night was a little bit of silence and the sweet taste of the day's last cigarette. Thank you. Thank you for going to a little clip of Appalachia with me. I would love to talk to you more if you have any thoughts or questions throughout the day.
Thank you so much, Adam. Let's give him another round of applause. That was fabulous.